Do you know that you may not be entirely human? Yes, the blood flowing through your veins might carry traces of something that does not belong to this earth. This is not just wild speculation. It is an idea supported by one of the most controversial theories in archaeology and alternative history. While scholars have long searched for the true source of humanity, there are whispers that point toward an ancient, forgotten mother civilization, and perhaps even an extraterrestrial origin. For centuries, we've been told that civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley were humanity's first great societies. They built cities, created writing systems, and mastered agriculture. But what if those civilizations were not the first? What if they were simply inheritors of knowledge from something much older, something buried beneath the waves of time? That something is known as Mu, the so-called mother civilization. According to accounts from explorers, archaeologists, and mystics, Mu was a vast continent that flourished tens of thousands of years ago, long before Atlantis, long before Egypt, long before any civilization we officially recognize today. Its people, the Naacal, were said to be advanced in ways we can hardly comprehend, masters of language, mathematics, and spiritual wisdom. Some claim they even had colonies scattered across the world, planting the seeds of future civilizations. But here's the shocking twist. Some researchers suggest that the people of Mu weren't entirely human at all. Instead, they might have been part of a hybrid lineage, humans guided, altered, or perhaps even created by beings from beyond this planet. If that sounds like science fiction, wait until you hear the testimonies, the so-called evidence, and the mysteries surrounding this lost land. In this episode of Secret Origins, we're diving deep into the story of Mu. Where did this legend come from? What evidence do we have that it existed? Could Mu really have been the source of all human civilization? And most chilling of all, was Mu's destruction a random catastrophe or the result of something much bigger? Strap in, because the story of Mu will challenge everything you thought you knew about human history. The whispers of Mu began in the 19th century, when mainstream archaeology was still taking shape. At that time, explorers were digging into ruins across the Americas, Egypt, and Asia, trying to piece together humanity's forgotten past. Among them was a man named Augustus Le Plongeon, a French-American archaeologist who devoted much of his life to studying the Mayan ruins of the Yucatan Peninsula. Le Plongeon was no ordinary scholar. He believed the Maya civilization was far older than Egypt, and their culture might have even seeded the Nile Valley. That was already a radical idea for his day. But what came next shocked even his fellow researchers. After years of studying Mayan texts and inscriptions, Le Plongeon claimed he had discovered references to a lost land called Mu, a mother civilization that existed long before Egypt, Mesopotamia, or even the Maya themselves. According to him, the Mayan writings spoke of a vast continent swallowed by the sea in a single cataclysm. He believed that the survivors of this disaster fled across the world, carrying with them the seeds of knowledge that would later blossom into the civilizations we recognize today. To him, Egypt, Greece, and even the cultures of Asia were echoes of Mu. But there was a problem. Le Plongeon could not provide hard evidence. No physical remains of Mu, no definitive maps, no geological proof. His claims were radical, too far ahead of his time, and too disruptive for historians who clung to the familiar narrative. So Mu slipped back into obscurity. For most scholars, it was little more than a fantastical myth, a footnote in archaeology. That might have been the end of the story, until another man revived it. His name was James Churchward, a British writer, inventor, and former soldier. In the 1920s, Churchward shook the world with a bold claim. Not only had Mu existed, but he had proof of it. In a series of books, The Lost Continent of Mu, The Children of Mu, and The Sacred Symbols of Mu, Churchward painted a vivid picture of this vanished world. He described Mu as a continent that once stretched across the Pacific Ocean, bigger than South America, and home to over 64 million people. Its inhabitants, the Naacal, lived in 7 great cities, spoke a sophisticated language, and possessed knowledge that surpassed even our modern understanding. Where did Churchward get this knowledge? His story was just as mysterious as the land he described. tribe. He claimed that decades earlier, while stationed in India, he befriended a high-ranking temple priest. This priest revealed to him a secret collection of ancient stone tablets inscribed with a language known as Nagamaya. Few people could read it, but the priest taught Churchward how to understand the script. According to Churchward, these tablets told the story of Mu, the birthplace of humanity, the motherland of all great civilizations. They described not only the rise of this continent, but also its destruction, a sudden series of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that swallowed the land in one night, erasing it from history. For many, Churchward's testimony was electrifying. Finally, there was more than whispers. There were texts, translations, and detailed descriptions. But skeptics were quick to point out a flaw. No one besides Churchward had ever seen the tablets. Without independent verification, his evidence was impossible to prove. And yet, the idea caught fire, because whether true or not, Churchward's story touched on something deep in human imagination, the belief that we come from somewhere older, greater, and more mysterious than we've been told.
If we believe James Churchward, Mu was not just another ancient society, it was the first civilization, the great motherland from which all others descended. His books described Mu in breathtaking detail, as though he had stepped foot on the vanished continent himself. According to him, Mu thrived between 50,000 and 12,000 years ago. At its peak, it was home to more than 64 million people, organized into 10 tribes. These tribes were not divided by constant wars or rivalries, but united under a single government and a single religion. For Churchward, this made Mu a utopian society, one of harmony, order, and advanced knowledge. The continent itself stretched across the Pacific Ocean, from the Marianas in the west to Easter Island in the east, and from Hawaii in the north to Mangaya in the south. By his calculations, it was even larger than South America. Vast rivers crisscrossed fertile plains, great mountains rose above the horizon, and 7 shining cities anchored the land with culture and power. The people of Mu, whom he called the Naacal, were described as highly spiritual and technologically advanced. Churchward even suggested they possessed a knowledge of science and energy far beyond what modern society understands. He wrote that they were masters of navigation, astronomy, and architecture, skills that they later passed on to their descendants around the world. But there's something more curious about his description. Churchward wrote that Mu was dominated by a black race superior in many respects to our own. He claimed these people were the ancestors of later civilizations, the ones who carried fragments of Mu's greatness to Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and beyond. Whether this was an accurate account of an ancient people, or simply Churchward's interpretation, it painted Mu not only as advanced, but also as humanity's common origin point. And then came the catastrophe. According to Churchward, Mu did not fade slowly, it perished violently. He claimed that around 12,000 years ago, the continent was struck by a devastating series of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. The ground cracked, cities burned, and within a single night, the entire landmass was swallowed by the sea. His words were chilling. The broken land fell into that great abyss of fire. Beneath more than 50 million square miles of ocean, Mu vanished, leaving behind only scattered survivors who fled to distant lands. These refugees, Churchward argued, became the seed bearers of future civilizations, spreading across Egypt, the Americas, and Asia, carrying fragments of Mu's wisdom with them. The story is haunting. A thriving civilization of millions wiped out in a single night, their continent erased without a trace. And yet, as impossible as it sounds, this narrative has echoes in cultures all over the world. From the biblical flood to the legends of Atlantis, from Polynesian myths to Mayan histories, countless traditions speak of a lost homeland swallowed by the sea. Could they all be fragments of the same forgotten memory, an echo of Mu? But skeptics were not convinced. They asked, if Mu was real, where was the evidence? Where were the ruins, the artifacts, the fossils of its people? Churchward's tablets had never been verified. Without proof, wasn't this just another myth? That question lingered until new discoveries discoveries seem to hint otherwise. Skepticism has always haunted the story of Mu. After all, without physical proof, how could a lost continent possibly be taken seriously? But in the early 20th century, unexpected discoveries seemed to breathe new life into the mystery. One of the most remarkable came from William Niven, a Scottish mineralogist and archaeologist working in Mexico. In 1921, while excavating near San Miguel Amantla, Niven unearthed a series of strange stone tablets, over 100 in total. These tablets were inscribed with intricate symbols and writings that no scholar could understand. They didn't match known Mesoamerican scripts, nor did they resemble Egyptian hieroglyphs or Sumerian cuneiform. To most, the inscriptions were an undecipherable puzzle, but to one man, they looked familiar: James Churchward. When shown the tablets, Churchward claimed the language was nearly identical to the Naga Maya script he had studied in India. He insisted that the Mexican tablets were relics of Mu, evidence that survivors had carried their culture across oceans after their homeland sank. This was explosive. If true, it meant Mu had not only existed, but also left a physical trail behind. But again, mainstream scholars hesitated. Without a universal translation or corroborating evidence, the Niven tablets remained a mystery, filed away as an unsolved anomaly. Still, the fascination grew. Churchward pointed to other evidence as well, not buried in the earth, but standing in plain sight across the Pacific. He argued that certain megalithic monuments were remnants of Mu or its colonies. The most famous of these, the Moai of Easter Island. These colossal stone figures, carved by the Rapa Nui people between 1250 and 1500 AD, are unlike anything else in the Pacific. Towering up to 10 meters tall and weighing as much as 82 tons, the Moai defy easy explanation. How could a relatively small island society create, transport, and erect such massive structures with primitive tools? When European explorers first encountered them, the mystery deepened. The statues had oversized heads, elongated features, and a solemn, almost otherworldly presence. Some were half buried, with only their heads visible, while others stood proudly on stone platforms called ehu,